So I'm going to do a lesson for Here Comes Sunshine. I'm going to do mostly Bob's stuff, but I'll cover a little bit of what Jerry's doing. Mainly what I'm going to do is just take a few examples from a few different shows and kind of go over those, and hopefully that'll provide a decent idea into how to approach the verses. So let's start with the intro. Songs in C. Bob has this pretty cool little unique intro. It starts on the C note. And with your third finger, you want to slide up from the 5th fret to the 7th fret on the A string. So we're going to hit that C note twice and slide up. Then you're going to skip a string and hit the C note on the G string. So that's the 5th fret of the G string. Then you're going to hit the G note, 5th fret of the D string, and then the D note, 7th fret of the G string. Now this D note, a lot of times sounds a little different, like it's not just a regular little note. You might have hammer on. Sometimes it sounds like a little hammer on. Or sometimes you hear this kind of little... So you might want to try something like... And right after that note, you're going to hit that G note again. And the C note right below it. Then we're going to get 2 staccato notes on that G note. The F note with your pinky on the 8th string. E note. Then you're going to slide that E note back to the D note. When you land on the C note, you start it over again. So you altogether that's... Sometimes there's this little variation he'll end with where he'll go... So if you do the whole intro, you might do something like this. Now going into the verse, so say we're going to finish the intro right here. You're going to go to a C lick, and you're going to make a C chord like this. You're going to use your pinky for the root note, third finger for the major third, and then you have the C chord, most of it right there. So Bob likes to use this shape quite a bit, and what he's doing here in this example I opened with, which is from 11-17-73, is hammers on from the 6th to the 7th fret on the A string, goes down to the G note on the D string, back up to this E note, back down to the G note, and we're going to hit the root note. Repeat. So if you take that from the end of the intro, you have and we're going to hit B flat note because we're moving back to a B flat chord in the progression. It goes from there to a D minor. So here's a D minor chord. We have the minor third, the F note, the A note, and the D note. So he's going to kind of just pull off back into the 5th of the D minor, hit the F note, land back on that A note. Then he kind of does this pre-bend as it goes to a C chord. So he's landing right in the C note with the chord. And we're going to land in a G chord, just a nice little strum, then a down, up, down on that same chord. Goes to a C for one beat, and back to a G, kind of like a Now to walk back up, what he does is takes these two notes, or at least from what I've heard, takes those two notes on the G, or the G and D strings, then makes the G and C note, so we have 5th fret of the G and D, then essentially makes a G5, but he just uses the G and the D. He doesn't hit the next G note. So let's play that along with the song just to see if we can match it up. So for the next verse, we do the same thing over the C chord. It's pretty much just a variation when we get to the B flat. And instead of just a pull off, we're going to do a hammer on pull off. So that's back to the F note. We're going to go back to the 2nd fret, open D string, 3rd fret, or the C note. Then we're going to go into a C chord like this. So this is another thing you'll see Weir do pretty often. He just has the root note, the major third, and the 5th. But he's going to lose the root note after he hits it and do a So it's a double stomp. He's pretty much making it a sus4. Back to the root note, and then to the G. Now to lead into the chorus, we have the same kind of a walk up, double stomp walk up. So he hits the G, moves up to the A minor, which is where it's headed, gets the G and D strings in there, then moves the root note back to the A flat. So it's kind of like it builds tension as it's leading into the A minor. So when we get to the chorus, we're going to use A minor, B flat, C, G, B flat, D minor, F, G. And we're going to do a little chord walk down. F, E minor, D minor. And that leads right back into the intro. So the way you're going to want to go about that is kind of wait till after the first beat. And it usually sounds like he's doing some kind of slide. So let's give that a listen and see if we can play along with it all the way from the second verse into the chorus. Don't you stand there, dream. Get out the way. Get out the way. So for that last part, I was just doing downstrokes, but chances are he's doing something more like this. Using the C shape for the G chords. So you have that 10th fret with your pinky, 9th fret, 3rd finger, 7th, 1st finger, and 8th, the G note, with your 2nd finger. So that's a G chord, that's an F chord. Do a down up with the F chord, come up and rest. Then we're going to make an E minor like this. Middle finger on the 5th of the D string, 1st finger on the 4th of the G, and 3rd finger on the 5th of the B. So that's down, up, down. Down, up, down. You're going to get a dead stroke in that down. And you're going to move back a whole step to the D minor like we were using and get that on the upstroke. So that should be. So there's a lot of ways you can get through the verse, a lot of variations you can use. So I'm just going to pick a few and go through them. One thing you can do is get down to the C note. We were using the G before, but you could do that hammer on from 6 to 7. Instead of doing a walk up there, do a little pull off. Right into that C. Another thing I've heard is so you're just doing that hammer on from 6 to 7, down to the G, then hammering on that same string to the A note. Next time you might not do the, but you might do something like this. Another thing you could do is take this and move it right here. And you kind of come into it earlier, so after the first bar of C. Move it back to B flat and apply it there. So here's the C, 8th fret, 7th fret, 10th fret. And here's B flat. that. You're going to want to drop the low E string for that and just focus on the A and D strings. Back into D minor. You might use a bend in the C. You'd use a double stomp bend, so you have a D note here. You're bending up a D and coming back down to C. Here's another set of ideas you could use through the verse. Start off one and, so get a down dead stroke and a little staccato upstroke. Then get the, so you do the hammer on like we've been doing, down to the C note. Come back up with the C chord, let it ring out, then maybe do something like, so we've left the A string, we're down to the D string, 5 to 7, 5 to 7, back up to 7, back down to the 5th of the G string, back to the B flat, kind of a quick hammer on pull off, back up to the F, now going to the G, you could also use this little pull off from the 3rd to the 2nd to the open D string. And then instead of having the regular, you can do, so you use your pinky to hammer onto the 4th fret. Make the last one kind of stop quick, so you can go into the, so altogether that would be. So after the verses, they jam on C, and Bob uses the intro to start that off. Then he kind of shies away from that, and you might hear him pick a little pattern to do variations on, maybe something like, mainly he riffs in and around Jerry. A lot of little bends like that. Slide back. Use this area. One thing you might hear him do quite a bit is take the C chord like this, get the F note on the G string, then hammer, and kind of get a quick upstroke on the high strings. This kind of thing. So you're going to take your middle finger and ring finger. You're going to slide up from the 10th fret of the G and the 10th fret of the high E up to the 12th fret. So really you're just sliding into a C chord right there. See, there's a C chord using a D shape. So to really develop a good understanding of how to improvise and to know what notes you can use and what combinations of notes you can use, it's pretty important to learn the scales or the modes. So this jam is based off C mixolydian. So it's pretty much a C major scale, but uses the dominant 7 or the B flat note. So I'll run through a few patterns real quick just to show you, just to give you an idea of where you can the scale on the neck. So we're starting on the 3rd fret, A string, D string, 2, 3, 5, 2, 3, 5, B string. Start with the root note right here. Maybe move back to the B flat. A, B flat, C. This is right out of the pentatonic, we're just adding a few extra notes. So here's the C major pentatonic. But we're going to add B flat and A. We have A here too, but go an extra half step and add B flat. Also the F note right there. 5, 6, 8. Go to the 8th position, put your middle finger on the C note, low E. 7, 8, 10, 7, 8, 10, 7, 9, 10, 8, 10, 11, 8, 10, 12. So you might hear him hammer into the C chord like this. Maybe give it a little bend. So here's that C chord. So he's going to hammer on from the D note to the E note, which is the major 3rd. Before we did when we were hammering from the flat 3rd to the major 3rd. But this is also used quite a bit. Also a C chord right here. We did it like this before using a D shape. Wouldn't be uncommon to put your first finger on the G note, 12th fret of the G string, and your second finger on the C note, 13th fret of the B string. And on that G string you can hammer on to the 14th fret, take it off, and you have the C chord. You could also bend up to the B flat. There's the B flat. So we can pretty much make a B flat and an F chord when you're playing in the song. So when the C jam ends, Bob goes back to the intro. Does that a few times, and eventually the whole band stops except for Billy. And Jerry enters this lick in G. And the whole band moves to G. So they all kind of follow Jerry after he starts with that lick, and you hear Bob doing a lot of stuff like that, right in the same area, but it's based in the G major scale now instead of the C. So here's that G note on the low E string. So you can use 7th and 5th fret for those bottom 3 strings. 7th and 9th fret for the D string and G string. You have the G note right on the 8th fret right there. And once again, a D-shaped G chord right here. So for Jerry's part, he's using a C chord up here in the intro. But he flattens those bottom 3 strings, or top 3 strings. So his pinky is free to hit that note. So you're gonna hit the G string. It's the 12th fret, 13th fret of the B, 12th fret of the high E. Come back up to the B string. Then you're gonna put your pinky down for the 15th fret of that same string. Then you're going to go back to the G string, down to the high E, back up to the B string, back to that 15th fret. So that's, now we're going to go back up to that 12th fret of the G string. Put your third finger down to the 13th fret of the high E. Hit it twice. Take it off. Hit that 12th fret. Come up to the B string and up to the G. So altogether that's so it starts on the same note that it ends on. For the verse and the chorus, he's mostly just chugging along. So you might hear the chord here and there, but a lot of times you just hear a. There is a specific thing on the D minor chord. He usually hits the root note. Does that. So root note, down, up, down. Dead downstroke, then a last a little. So from the C chord, he usually does this little riff into G. Hammer on from the 5th to the 7th of the A string, get that G note on the D string. Back to that 7th fret of the A string. And it sounds like it usually slides back up to the root note of the G chord. You might hear him slide back into it for the second time. Usually when it's the second time around for the verse and it's heading into the chorus, he'll just do that little riff once. So he'll go from the D minor to the C and the G, then bring the riff in. That was kind of a little bit of a different one that's used here and there. So once we get into the chorus, he's kind of just chugging along again. So the song goes intro, verse, chorus, intro, verse, chorus. Then when it goes back to the intro the third time, it stays on that C and just jams on it. When you're playing lead, you want to use the same scale I went over, the Mixolydian scale. Some ideas for things that Jerry does. You might use sequences. So you'd go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Go back 3 notes. Start on the second note you hit. Go up 1 higher. Notice I'm ending with a staccato note. Pretty much they're all staccato notes. Could make that into 4s. Get a little half step bend here. So you have a G chord right here. So you can do a slide or a bend to that major third. And I did a little triplet pull off. 12, 11, 10. I kind of did a chromatic walk back there. Might use other sequences like this. Might use other chromatics. This idea is used quite a bit. So you go, move back. You could do the opposite. Go instead of. Half step bends. When the jam goes into G, you can go. Or you could there's a variation on that. This is a good thing to practice going. So if you can learn to interconnect those scales and do that kind of thing, so after the G jam it goes back to a verse, chorus, then out of the chorus does another little G jam, and from that G jam it ends with the chorus. So altogether you're going to have intro, verse, chorus, jam on the intro, change to G, go back to the verse, chorus, jam on G, and then end with the chorus.